Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're discussing Bill C-18, the Online News Act, and news link blocking. So, Matt, how is this playing out right now? We know that Meta is already blocking news links for some users. For example, some people can't view certain news outlets on Instagram or on Facebook, but other users can. It seems to be some discrepancy among users. And then how are these outlets responding to the blocking, either big or small outlets?
Yeah, I think a lot of the small outlets in particular are very concerned about this. Some of them get 50% or more of their traffic from platforms, so this could have a huge detrimental effect on their business. In terms of how it's working for users, I don't think we know exactly who Meta is going to end up blocking yet or not. Um, they could kind of create problems in either direction. So one of the concerns people raised early on is if they start blocking all high quality news, but are leaving a lot of sort of low quality misinformation sources up, the sort of Facebook experience of a lot of negative, not very well founded information circulating could get even worse. On the other hand, they could screw it up in the other direction. And if they're blocking a very wide range of content, you really start to run into some pretty serious censorship concerns. So it'll be interesting to see what Meta does on that front.
Professor Geist, what is Google's position? Because they have taken a different approach from Facebook. It seems like it might not be as forceful as Meta's position, but in June, they did suggest that they may start blocking news in search results when the legislation takes effect later this year. How concerned are you about that? I mean, I think blocking search results would be have a much bigger impact on my life than blocking on Facebook.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it would have a much bigger impact on everybody's lives. In some ways, the two companies are the same. They both object to the notion of a legislation that is grounded in mandated payments for links. But I do think that the two companies value news somewhat differently. And so, from Facebook's perspective, they look at this and they say news just does not have a lot of value on our platform. It's a very small part of people's feeds. It's highly substitutable. So, people spend the same amount of time on the platform, whether they are clicking on news links or looking at photos. In fact, if you think about the social media business model, it runs directly counter to what they want to achieve. They want people to stay on that platform as long as possible. News links send them away. And so it's not the kind of content they're all that interested in. Google, on the other hand, knows that the value of the links isn't so much in a service like Google News, which I think in other countries they have shut down in the face of legislation that they found problematic. But the notion of changing what people see in search results would have a big impact on the quality of its search engine, which of course is at the end of the day fundamental to that company. And so while they've made the same basic position that it's an unworkable law, and if it doesn't change and if they can't get certain assurances, they may move in the same direction. There have been reports that they are talking to the government in the hope that the regulation making process, which is still underway, may be able to be used as a mechanism to alleviate some of those concerns. It suggests they are willing to pay, but there are still some real doubts as to whether or not the expectations of the government and the media lobby behind this legislation match up to where that company is at.
Matt, the government, maybe they still are engaging with Google in this regulatory process, but their public position has been to really double down on their attacks on some of these on these platforms, Meta in particular. But I mean, they are still really forcefully defending this legislation. I think the prime minister went so far as to call the opposition to the legislation an attack on democracy. What is this supposed to achieve? Do they think that they can, pressure the platforms into agreeing with the legislation by using this type of aggressive rhetoric?
Yeah, I think as a Canadian, something I find disappointing about this government is they sort of lead with messaging ahead of actual policy. And attacking the tech giants is a really easy rhetorical attack. They often deserve it, but I don't think that they're continuing this necessarily for sound tactical reasons. I do think the relationship with Meta is fundamentally broken at this point, and they may continue the attacks because they know Meta's not coming back. I don't think Meta's going to come back. But I think we have seen a differentiation in how they're speaking about Meta and Google, and I think they're actually a little desperate to find some kind of deal with Google. because they know if that falls through as well, the negative consequences get even bigger. And they're actually going to be directly on the hook with news companies. They've essentially told them, hey, if this whole thing fails, we'll find funds for you some other way, which would be from their budget. They would have to compensate both for the missing funds from C-18.
Well, it would be
and
from
also
all
for
of
the,
us, from our taxes. But
oh, exactly.
we do have to go to commercial break. But when we come back, I want to talk about the parallels to Australia.